Hello, and welcome to Talks with Tricia. If this is your first time being here, my name is Tricia Sitemere. I am the CEO and founder of Control Alt Delete, and I'm also the author of the book, I'm Sick of This Shit. I am a fulfillment coach, career consultant, and speaker, and I help people focus on the minutia that prevents them from accomplishing their goals. So during Talks with Tricia, I'll be diving into a lot of various personal development topics and bringing that information to you. Our topic for today is going to be around self-awareness and self-assessment. When I'm working with my clients, one of the very first conversations that we have is around self-assessment. It's like taking an inventory of sorts. So you know what the cards are, what the chips are on the table, and you can build from there. So with that, I am super excited to be bringing on my guest today, Miss Cassandre Dunbar. So I'm going to bring her in. Hello, how are you?
Good, how are you? Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So Cassandra is a woman of many hats. She's a mom, a wife, an educator, a medical doctor, and the host of the Be Well Sis Podcast, which I love. So I'm going to share her bio and tell a little bit more about Miss Cassandra, or Cass. She is passionate about the wellness and self-care practices of Black millennial women. Her journey began shortly after graduating medical school when she realized that there was a large gap between what she learned in medical school and what it truly means to be well. Her quest for information revealed the lack of inclusion in the wellness community. Since then, she's been dedicated to creating and curating well-researched information for those who are often forgotten. She creates a bi-weekly podcast, like I said, called the Be Well Sis, as well as has a wellness membership community on Patreon. So welcome, Cassandre. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Good, great. So you and I connected because I listened to the Be Well Sis podcast. And so I'm just super excited to just have a conversation with you around self-awareness and self-assessment. So I'll just throw a question out there. We can chat about it.
Let's do it.
I always like to start off with the definition. So this will make sure we're all on the same page. What does self-awareness or self-assessment mean to you?
For me, it's constantly taking inventory of my thoughts and my actions and how I'm interacting with those around me. So just like assessing things, constant assessment and reassessment.
Okay, yeah, I would say the same thing. So as it pertains to, the folks that I coach that are either trying to transition or, move the needle in a certain space, getting to know yourself, right? Like re-energizing the relationship that you have with yourself. Like, what am I good at? What is it that I actually want? What are things that I'm not so good at, right? I think that's part of self-assessment, is understanding, hey, what are my areas of opportunity, and kind of going from there. Kind of attached to that would be, tell us a little bit about your own self-assessment journey.
I think that for me, my self-assessment is a bit much. I think I'm very super critical of myself, and that's something that I'm actively working on in therapy, to be honest with you. The way I critique myself and I'm constantly editing myself is not okay. So my journey is to scale back a bit, because the critique that I have of myself, I don't have for anybody else on this planet, right? So I am trying to be less self-aware, if that makes sense.
Okay.
So, well,
I think that's a thing.
Maybe what I mean is I'll rephrase that. So in therapy, I learned that I'm too critical of myself, right?
Okay.
So I guess that is part of the assessment that I've made over the year with help of my therapist, right?
Okay.
So I'm trying to be kinder to myself.
Yes, grace.
Yes, yes. I have grace for everybody else and very little for myself. So I'm working on improving that.
Yeah.
So that's where I'm at in my journey with self-awareness. I'm too self-aware,
Yeah,
essentially.
I would mirror that 100%. So I'm trying to move away from the phrase being a perfectionist because it can be too much, right? It's just too much. Anytime I'm trying to do something, particularly with my work,
Mhm.
I will nitpick and nitpick and nitpick and nitpick. And now getting to the point where it's like, okay, I know what it is that I'm doing. I know that I need to stop doing it and give myself grace, like you said,
Mhm.
has been like one of the most eye-opening things about my personal self-awareness and self-assessment journey.
Yeah.
How do you think you are able to turn this recognized awareness into habits?
Oh, that is a good one. One thing that I've been working on is constantly monitoring my thoughts. You know, self-awareness is part of self-awareness in general is, monitoring like your thoughts, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I need to monitor like what is the tone of voice that I have with myself.
Mm-hmm.
So that's something that I've been constantly doing. So that's a little thing. And then the other thing is when it comes to being self-aware, um, part of being self-aware is having integrity, right? That's a consequence of being self-aware.
Mm-hmm.
But first, to have integrity with the world, you have to have integrity with yourself. So if I make a commitment with myself about, I don't know, I'm going to get up and go for a walk in the morning, I have
Mm-hmm.
to actually honor that commitment, so that I can trust myself that I
Right.
will say I'm going to do something and then actually follow through with it. I think sometimes if we start to become a little lax with our integrity with the world, is because way before that we didn't have integrity with ourselves.
Right.
So what I'm trying to say is that in order to be one part of self-awareness is just to have habits and honor the commitment that you have with yourself first. That is
Okay.
like the most important habit to try to cultivate. It's
Okay.
hard, yeah.
Yes, I am a very regimented person. Like I
Mhm.
live by a to-do list, I keep a very tidy calendar, like all of those things. And so when it comes to forming habits, like I need to see it. It needs to be scheduled somewhere. Like I need to be very intelligent and intentional and diligent about making sure that whatever change that is that I'm trying to make, or if I need to accomplish something or complete something, that it's somewhere in front of me. It's written down. I've had to say it out loud. So that was one of the questions that we got from my Instagram story. So
Ah,
that's how
that's
you do it. You keep your integrity for yourself and then write it down, say it out loud, and keep it in front of you so that you can see what's going on.
yeah, yeah. And I wish I was more like you. I used to be way more regimented than I am now. I think something about having kids and just the way the kids, especially when they're little, just like you have a plan and they have their own plan, um, has just really changed things for me. And I'm way loose with the structure in my life. And I don't like that. I want to get back to being way more regimented. That's something that I'm working on too. Because,
That is so funny because my friends all the time tell me that this being so particular and specific about everything, as soon as you have a child, you can kiss all of that goodbye. And
yeah.
it will be interesting.
It's wild. The first year of having my oldest was such a transition because I had my plans like, listen, this is what we're going to do for the day, for the week, for the month. And he just did not give a damn about my plans. And it was really, really stressful letting go of the reins.
Yeah.
But now I need to get the reins back because
Right. I mean, it can't be a free for all.
right. Right.
I can't remember which one of my friends told me this, but she was like, Tricia, you can't put a birth on a calendar. So you just
Yeah, that's the truth.
get used to it. That's so funny. So you mentioned the things that you say to yourself. Are you a fan of affirmations? Do you like affirmations? What are your thoughts there?
No. Yes, I am a fan of affirmation that I think about it. Like I won't sit in the mirror and be like, oh, I am beautiful, I am beautiful. But I do say a lot, I can do this. I can do hard things. When I get stressed out, overwhelmed, take a step back. I'm like, you know what, I can do this. I need to take a break right now, but I can do this. So I do a lot of affirmations. Yeah,
Okay.
I do. How about you?
I love affirmations, first of all. I'm a quotes person, so I very much appreciate the written word. I mostly say them to myself. I probably should say them out loud more often than I do. But yes, I love them. I write affirmation exercises. Those are on my YouTube channel, and you can put them on in the background. You should try one if you haven't. But yeah, I love those. And there's some people who are like, oh, I don't think affirmations actually work. And I'm like, well, that's less about the affirmation and more about your mindset. Like,
yeah.
do you think that you can do hard things? Do you think that you can overcome? I feel like I'm having a constant conversation with myself all day, and I would say in either direction. Like if I'm frustrated about something, like, oh, this too shall pass, or if I'm excited about something, speaking it out loud, like, hey, I get to talk to Cassandra today.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think now that I'm thinking about it, I have my kids say affirmations.
Okay.
When we're brushing our teeth, I'll have them say, I am loved, I'm kind, I'm intelligent. I think it's important for us to cultivate like that subconscious, to know that we're great, that we can do things. Because especially as we get older and just life gets harder and people lie to us about who we are, right? We need to have that foundation to know that we are capable.
Amazing. Phenomenal, intelligent, beautiful.
Exactly. All those good things. And I think as we get older too, sometimes we forget all those things about ourselves. So speaking them out loud really is helpful. And as you were talking, I was like, shoot, I gotta get back, on my affirmation game. Like,
I'm going to send the one that I created to you. I think there's a couple of them, and I have like a journal full of them. I just need to get in front of a speaker and record them and put them out. So I'll definitely send that to you.
Yes, please.
This is an interesting question. So, we talked about how both you and I are very self-aware, and that we have periodic self-assessments. What about folks that don't have that self-awareness?
Oh, it's
like giving feedback, working with that person, having a relationship with that person. What are your thoughts on that?
I can't do it. I can't do it. Self-awareness is like the foundation for emotional intelligence. And I need to speak and be in a relationship with, whether it's like a working relationship, a friendship, definitely romantic relationship. Like you have to have that emotional intelligence baseline. Because, when we're all going to give each other feedback, right? Give and receive feedback. And if you don't have that emotional intelligence, if you don't have that self-awareness, you can't accept the feedback.
Yes, exactly that. Exactly that.
And nobody's perfect. And we're all hopefully striving to get better and to improve things about ourselves. And if we're in a relationship with somebody, whether it's our friend or whatever, a sister, or whatever it is, they should feel comfortable to point out some things that we can work on and not feel that we're going to be offended by it. And, it'll be a source of contention between us. It matters so much. So self-awareness is a big thing for me. I can tell if somebody is not self-aware, and I shy away because yes,
I know exactly how that goes. And I would say that my first experience with someone that was less self-aware, I don't know when the light bulb went off that I was self-aware, or it wasn't, I'm not sure if it was, when I transitioned into coaching and it was something that, I started talking about all the time. But I have to give that some thought, like, when did I really become self-aware? But anywho, I was working with someone and the self-awareness was not there. And I just found myself all the time being so frustrated working with them.
I can see that. It's like talking to a wall at some points too, like, especially if you're a coach, you're trying to give feedback to help the person get from this point to the next level. If they can't see what you're seeing, or they're not receptive to what you're saying and seeing, it's like, okay.
Yeah. So you mentioned in coaching, like, we're talking about self-assessment in all of the ways where, we want to grow, or areas of opportunity. But for some folks, part of their, journey through self-awareness and self-assessment is realizing the really great things about them. Like, I have this all the time where I'm having conversations with my clients and they don't realize how amazing they are. They don't realize that they're such a talented, photographer, or a talented, developer, whatever. That they have all of these really great things that they bring to the table. And, that's really nice sometimes to kind of stop and say, these are all of the great things, about me. And so I think that's also important in terms of.
Yeah, you make a really good point. I think that's one thing that I've had to work through in therapy too, is recognizing the good parts about me, and the things that I thought were weaknesses are actually some of my strengths.
Yeah.
So definitely, I think in our culture, like, we're taught women should be like, humble, and humility is important, right?
Right.
But I think we don't take compliments well for the most part.
Yes.
And we have a hard time accepting praise and then praising ourselves too. So you make a really good point. Part of self-awareness is like, okay, I'm great at these things, and recognizing that.
Yeah. Not rebutting when somebody gives you a compliment, right? Oh, Tricia, you did a really great job, or you look nice, and being like, oh, you give a story behind it instead of just being like, thank you.
Exactly. Yes.
I'll take that. Thank you very much. Have a great day.
Yes. Agreed.
So what other thoughts do you have around self-assessment or self-awareness?
Oh man, it's just so important to constantly take inventory of where you are, and like you said, not only the weaknesses but also the strengths that you have to offer. And then just take it from there, and just be open to criticism. I think a lot of us we don't like to be criticized, or our work to be criticized, but depending on the source, right? People who are in our lives who mean well and care for us and everything, like, they're trying to help us out, right? So be open to criticism. Doesn't mean you should change whatever about yourself or your project, but be open to it.
Feedback is a gift.
Yes, absolutely. So it's super important, for my opinion, to take those things in, and just to have, just as a baseline, self-awareness is just the foundation of your relationship with the world, I think. I'm just thinking about people who have just said, like, just the craziest things in meetings and stuff, like, oh, girl or sir, that is not the time or place for that. And I think it goes back to, like, self-awareness, just being able to decipher, like, when this joke is appropriate and when it's not.
Right. And for some people, it's like anything goes all the time.
Right. And it's like cringe. And I get secondhand embarrassment all the time. So I'm just oh gosh. So yeah.
My weakness is that I start chuckling. Like, you can read my face when I'm excited about something, when I think something is funny. And, sometimes it's funny. Sometimes it's like,
yes.
Oh, it's rough. Because you're like, okay, I hope this meeting.
Right. Get me out of here, please.
That's so funny. Let me make sure I went over all of our questions. Okay, I think we covered all of those questions. So I guess around your self-awareness, outside of being kind to yourself, like what else do you think is important to take away, I guess, as your final thoughts on self-awareness?
Final thought is that whoever is listening, everybody who's listening and watching, that you are incredible. There is something about you that makes you special, that makes you just amazing. And even if you don't know what that thing is, take some time to do some assessment in your life and just some reflection as to what have I excelled at in the past or currently, what are my gifts? We all have gifts. And just figuring out what that is and lean into it. You are great. I think sometimes people think, oh, I don't have any talent, I don't have any gift. You absolutely do. And being self-aware as to what that thing is really could be a life changer or just a game changer. Just it'll take you to the next level because you'll know what it is inside of you that you have that you can offer to the world. So yeah.
That's very sound advice. I love that. What I would add to that is, self-assessment just for the sake of self-assessment, I don't think is enough, right? Like if you are wanting to do something or you want to change something about yourself and then you have to put it into action, right? Yeah. And it's not going to happen overnight. And, it might not be smooth sailing all the time, but I think it's definitely worth it because then you start to see, the changes unfold and the great things in your life happening that you want to happen and attract for yourself. So that would be what I would add.
Yeah. And just to piggyback off of that, it's a journey, like you said, it's not going to happen overnight and it won't always be smooth sailing. So it's going to take some time. And I think if we embrace that it's a journey, it becomes less of a task or like a mountain,
Yeah, it's a marathon, not a sprint. I will not be running another marathon, but it is a marathon.
You ran a marathon before?
A half marathon. Let me clear it up because the fact checkers are out there. Never again. Never.
Wow, that's amazing though.
I did it once. I'll do anything once. It was a challenge and all of the training, but so yes, it's a marathon, not a sprint.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cool. Yeah. So Cassandra, tell us where we can keep up with you.
So on Instagram, I'm at Be Well Sis _podcast. And then my podcast is called Be Well Sis, the podcast. So it's on every streaming platform. I release episodes every other week, and then there's a bonus in between there. I think that's it. I'm on Twitter, Be Well Sis, barely on Twitter. But yes, mostly on Instagram.
Okay. Cool. Well, thank you so much for coming to chat with me on Talk with Tricia. I really appreciate it. I was good having a great conversation with you. If you guys are not already, make sure you click like and subscribe on this. Tell a friend, share it with your circle. I wish you the great rest of the week. And in the meantime, onward and upward.